In a world full of strange diseases and symptoms that no doctor can explain, there was only one doctor who understood the rules of the game. He wasn't an ordinary doctor. No, he sees what no one else can see. He treats diseases that have no explanation in a way beyond imagination. So get ready, because you will see something great and it will be easy on you. That's the last thing, and enough talk until now. Let's start the story. The story begins with Kerr, the assistant to a crazy doctor named Atan. He's walking along and suddenly finds a girl standing in front of a hospital, being prevented from entering. By the way, this girl's name is Mary. He asks her if something is wrong. The girl then goes silent like that for her family and tells him that she has an illness that doctors are powerless against. No one can treat her. And without much talk, he takes her to Atan, the crazy doctor, and no disease can stand in his way. The first thing he does when he sees Kerr, he dies laughing and thinks he's a kidnapper of this little girl. But Kerr lands a blow on his head that knocks him out, and never mind. So he starts investigating with the girl and finds out that her tears are actually spices. And contrary to expectations, he isn't shocked. No, he asks her about other symptoms like that, if she feels them. The girl tells him yes. At that moment, Kerr says she must cry so he can see with his own eyes what happens. He prepares the pillows and they sit together to watch her. And the only one crying that night is, "What are you doing, Korba?" He says that the girl who is acting is very talented, and suddenly Mary thanks him for his words. Yes, it turns out she is the girl acting in front of them. Of course, they are very shocked. Atan tells her, "So can you cry if someone asks you to?" She tells him, "Of course." And indeed, she cries in front of him. Atan confirms her words and that her tears are spices. But what's the story? He starts talking to her more and finds out that this girl lives under unnatural psychological pressure, and it's because of her mother, who controls her life completely and forces her to suppress her feelings completely. And here, Atan gives her bags of tea and tells her to drink it regularly. He also gives her lenses for her to use in necessary cases to prevent the tears from falling. But he tells her that these lenses have side effects and she shouldn't wear them for a long time. Then he promises her that everything will be fine. At that moment, she says goodbye to them and leaves. And focus with me here on the tool related to Mary's bag, my friend. Anyway, the girl returns home, and we notice that her mother isn't interested in her at all. No, she even tells her to get ready to go back, right, to your work. Yes, we learn that her mother forces her to work, takes the money, and buys things for herself. The peak of selfishness, honestly. Mary then goes to eat and drinks from Atan's tea, and hop, the girl can't hold her tongue. No, she tells her mother that she hates work and always feels alone. That's it. She decided she won't work anymore. Her mother goes to her and yells at her stupidly. Her only concern is the money that will come from her daughter. But Mary can't hold her tongue and tells her, "You are a selfish mother, devoid of humanity and mercy." And I'll shock you now, my friend. Atan was sitting watching all this talk and heard every single word said. And this was through the eye of insight. Here, Kerr asks him what exactly is happening. So Atan tells him that the tea Mary drank is like any ordinary tea, but the whole idea is in the kettle. And this kettle is a magical tool, and anything drunk from it prevents you from suppressing your feelings, meaning you will say what's in your heart immediately. Anyway, we find Mary sitting alone like that, and we learn she has work again soon. She says, "If I drink this tea, I'll let out everything inside me, and I won't cry spices anymore. But surely my mom will be upset with." Therefore, she decides to wear the lenses, which will prevent her from crying without her telling the truth. But their damage is severe, my friend. And indeed, we find a program coming to film with her at home, and the host hints at the numerous possessions, shoes, and rings, a huge number, and all these things, of course, belong to her mother, who forces her to work and spends the money on herself. Yes, Mary is very tired and can't move, my dear, and yet her mother forces her to continue filming. The girl then writes down the feelings inside her, and her condition worsens more. She becomes paralyzed in place, and her concentration vanishes. Despite all this, her mother yells at her and tells her, "Get up and finish filming, come on!" And suddenly Mary loses consciousness and falls to the ground. But do you think that Atan will leave her like that? No. By God, he's standing at the window and entering through it like a thief, and Kerr is the second one entering their place. The mother says to them, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" They ignore her and go check on the girl. Unfortunately, her condition is very difficult. The damage is showing on her. Atan then explains what is happening and tells her that the lenses help her suppress her feelings and prevent crying at the same time, and thus they are destroying her from the inside, and she must let out everything inside her now. Here, Kerr then brings the tea, and this is to help her say everything. Mary at first refuses to drink it because she is afraid of hurting her mother's feelings. But Atan tells her, "Don't worry, I'm with you." The mother then says to him, "Get away from her. You look like this, not a doctor nor anything." So he tells her, "Fine, but look at what you've brought your daughter to, and this is all because of your selfishness." Mary drinks the tea and hop, a huge energy erupts. The place explodes. Her feelings come out from her, and she says everything inside her and how much her mother has literally complicated her life and buried her alive. And suddenly, all of the mother's possessions are erased in seconds. And instead of the mother running to her daughter, she goes to the possessions and grabs their ashes. As for Mary, she apologizes to her mother for what happened. But Atan had a different opinion. He tells her, "It's simple. If you want more money, you could sacrifice your hand or even your legs. And anyway, I know the organ trade well, and they buy for a high price, and you could buy back all these possessions again." At that moment, the mother mother starts to realize who did this to her daughter and regrets it immensely. The last thing she does is take her in her embrace and break down crying. And here, Atan's philosophy in treatment appears, and how he treated the girl, and also cured the mother from what she was doing. After a while, we find him sitting in the garden, and here Atan enters and is with Mary and her mother, who are treating them to food beyond imagination, thanking also for everything they did. The next day, we find Kur and Atan sitting together, and suddenly someone enters on them. We learn that he is another patient suffering from a mysterious disease that has baffled doctors. By the way, his name is Pharaoh. Atan then looks at his tests and finds out that he is suffering from something like osteoporosis to the degree that his body starts to be consumed. Yet, the cause is mysterious. Atan then tells him that diseases like these need strong reasons to be infected by them, and that treating his condition specifically will take a little time, so he tries to understand from him what exactly he does. But Pharaoh yells at him, saying, "I want any temporary treatment, that's it, regardless of what I do." Atan tells him, "Fine," and brings him a magical handkerchief that hides any disease the moment it is placed on your body. And indeed, Pharaoh likes what he hears and takes the handkerchief and leaves safe. And as usual, Atan is watching him, of course. Anyway, Kur asks him if Pharaoh will really be cured, so he tells him no, and they know that he will come back again. But what is the story after that? Atan and Kur go to eat at one of the restaurants, and it seems like Atan is impressed by this girl. Kur then tells him, forget about her, she's wearing a chain and has a ring, she looks engaged. And when they ask her if she is really engaged, she tells them no, and lets them know that her sponsor normally is the one who gave her this ring, and she shows them his picture too. But he said this turns out to be Pharaoh. At that moment, Atan is watching Pharaoh and discovers a dangerous secret about it, that he is a despicable human being with no conscience. He makes promises to girls and dates them hoping to get engaged and all, but he just plays with them in the end, nothing more. And it turned out he was dating more than 7 girls at the same time. How sweet, by God. Here, Atan then realizes that this is the cause of the disease he has. And never mind, after a little while, we find Atan and Kur standing in the garden, grilling food, and everything is fine. Suddenly, Pharaoh comes from behind them, and Atan looks like he was expecting him, basically. Pharaoh then grabs him and yells at him, saying that the handkerchief no longer hides his disease. No, on the contrary, his disease has increased, and his body has literally started to be consumed. Atan tells him, take your hand off, come on, you're the one who chose the temporary treatment for the disaster you're in, and then this handkerchief is just a painkiller, nothing more. Besides, a despicable person like you must pay the price for what you do. Pharaoh is shocked when he finds out that Atan knows everything about it. He sits on the ground and tells him, I kiss your hand, treat me, don't leave me, I feel like I'm dying. Atan tells him, don't say that, no, because you actually will die soon. Long live you, O Atan. Pharaoh then becomes terrified and says, I'll do anything you tell me to. I kiss your hand, help me. Atan tells him, fine, first of all, put on the rings you have and be fair. Come on, because you must take the injection now. And with all due respect to every injection, my friend, this one alone is harder than the hardest injection anyone has ever taken in his life. And damn it like that, by God. Anyway, he extracts the virus that is inside him and injects it into his finger and tells him, if you want to be treated, then you must confess to every girl you met that you were just playing with her, nothing more, and give her back her ring. Otherwise, you will have to do without this finger forever, and we cut it off before the virus spreads in your body again. And after that, he leaves him and walks away. And indeed, Pharaoh had no choice but to confess the truth. He pulls himself together and goes to each of the 7 girls, apologizes to them, and confesses the truth. And of course, the girls forgive him, but after calming down, the boy was raised anew and crushed, literally. Come on, you deserve it. And yet Pharaoh was cured forever, and the virus was completely eliminated. The next day, we find Kur walking along, and suddenly Atan contacts him via the eye of insight. Anyway, Kur enters a side street and says, what do you want, man? Atan then tells him, why don't you bring me the magical tools? And anyway, the bird in your hand will guide you on the way. Kur tells him, fine. But when he arrives there, he is surprised. It's a shop like any ordinary shop, and Aeon looks like he's laughing at it. At that moment, the shop owner, whose name is Kian, by the way, welcomes Kur and tells him, Atan sends his regards. He puts his hand on like that and says, you are exactly about 152 centimeters tall. You look like you're still in elementary school. Here, Kur then gets very angry, and this is because he is a high school student. Never mind. Kian then takes them, and we learn that inside this shop is a magical tools store with everything you dream of, and Kur, of course, is amazed by the place. Anyway, Kian goes to get cups for tea, serves them, and they sit together. Atan asks if he is looking for something specific, and at that moment, a little girl enters on, and the two greet her, and they seem to know her. By the way, her name is Grandma Yumi. Here, Kur is shocked and says, Grandma, what do you mean? Atan tells him, just as you heard, the one in front of you is exactly 103 years old, and she is Kian's grandmother, the owner of this shop. Here, Atan then requests her to make him a second piece of the Eye of Insight. She tells him, fine, and starts making it, but there is one missing ingredient that she doesn't have. She tells him to come by tomorrow so she can prepare it for him, and suddenly, Kian notices someone standing in front of them, and they are shocked because no one noticed him in the first place. By the way, this man's name is Shin. He asks them if anyone can buy the tools from him, and indeed, Yumi buys everything he has. No, she even asks him if he wants to sell the chain he is wearing, and the boy transforms completely and tells her, impossible. He takes himself and leaves. When Atan then asks Yumi about what happened, she tells him that the amulet he has is a very terrifying magical tool, and through it, he can disappear and steal all the shops and stores in the city. In return, in the end, it will be his life, or in other words, his influence in existence will begin to fade away one by one, as happened just a while ago, and no one sensed his presence. And Atan, when he hears her words, is shocked and runs searching for him everywhere, but unfortunately doesn't find him. Korba tells him, I know where we will find him. He tells Atan, take us to the nearest magic shop, and indeed they manage to find him. Atan then calls out to him quickly and says, give me the chain you have now. As for Shin, he tells him, are you stupid, or do you look like this? Atan then lets him know that the tool he has will be the cause of his death if he doesn't listen to the talk. And suddenly, Shin transforms again, and the demon controls him and tells him, no one can take it from you. You better get out of my way. But then, like that, he returns to his normal self and says, help me, and ha! The tool controls him again, and we learn that inside it is a terrifying demon that feeds on human souls. At that moment, Yumi and Kian arrive where they are, and Yumi tells him, I have an offer for you that shouldn't be missed. What do you say? We make a challenge? If we win, we take the tool, but if you win, you take our souls and feed on them. How sweet. Shin, of course, agrees to the offer, but on the condition that he is the one who sets the bet. He gives the watch to Yumi and tells her, you will give me exactly 100 seconds to hide in the garden, and of course, no moving is allowed. And each one of you has 1 minute to search for me, and if any one of you manages to catch me, then you win the bet. But if no one finds me, then congratulations. To me, your souls are mine. And hop, he makes a demonic contract between them that prevents them from escaping through talk. And indeed, the bet begins. Shin uses the tool he has and disappears from existence. We then learn that Kerr is the first one to start. He reassures them and says, leave this matter to me. And indeed, after exactly 100 seconds, he enters the garden and uses his intelligence. He surely won't hide in an ordinary place. He searches every inch, literally, but in vain. He doesn't find it. Unfortunately, the time ends. It becomes the turn of Atan, and he runs at full speed, thinking he will do it or what, and barely 2 steps, and his time runs out. Damn it, by God. It comes to the turn finally of Yumi, and suddenly she takes out a tool from with. We learn that this tool allows her to see anything non-human, no matter what, even if it has completely disappeared. But he said, well, we are from humans normally, and therefore he won't appear to her. Tan is the only one who notices this and says, we've compensated for God's sake. Let's have an action scene and finish it. And indeed, Yumi's time then ends, and we notice that Shin is watching them and becomes very excited. Finally, it comes to Kian's turn, and he is their last hope. But the disaster is that he turned out to be blind and can't see. Atan then tells him, Yumi, someone like you surely has a plan. And indeed, her plan is that her heartbeat rate will rise from too much excitement, and this is because he felt the victory. And ha! Kian will activate a strange ability he has. And despite the fact that he can't see, his hearing abilities are like a radar. Literally, he focuses intensely and with all calmness and heads towards one of the trees. And hop, come here, oh sad one. Oh, you who has bewildered us for years. He catches him, and the demonic contract is activated, and the amulet is removed from his neck. Finally, he returns to his normal self again and falls on the ground unconscious. As for Yumi, she takes possession of the curse and imprisons it. After a little while, Kian and Yumi decide to take care of Shin. As for Atan and Kur, they say goodbye to them and return home again. The next day, we find Atan burning incense in front of his clinic. When Kur asks him what he is doing, he tells him, this incense will make anyone who has a mysterious disease come here, and this is involuntarily. And indeed, we find one of the patients standing in front of, but what is his story? They enter the clinic and sit with, by the way, his name is Az. We learn that he was afflicted and turned into hot pepper suddenly like that, and he can't get rid of it completely. Atan tells him that the mysterious disease afflicts you when there is a state of disturbance between your body and your heart, and there is surely a reason that made you reach this state. Anyway, I have the solution. He asks Kur to bring him a magical tool from his storage, and indeed, he brings it to him. He holds the tool and lets Maonaz know that there is a pair of scissors inside the bag in front of him, and that it is the only tool that will treat his condition. Az tries to open the bag, but it doesn't open at all. Atan tells him, I forgot to inform you, by the way, these scissors aren't something just anyone can use. In short, they are the ones who choose who will use them and who won't, and all you have to do is prove your abilities to them, and that you truly deserve for them to be yours. And indeed, Az takes them and leaves the place. When Kur asks Atan why he didn't ask him about the reason, he tells him, I'm sure Az knows the reason for what is happening to him well, and that's enough for him to be able to treat himself. On the other hand, we find Az sitting in school, and hop, another boy, a frozen one, enters the class, greets him, and we learn that they are friends. By the way, his name is Hoshi. Never mind. We are then surprised by the class teacher summoning Az and telling him, what is it, son, that you did on this exam? Az is standing frozen and doesn't respond to him at all, and we discover that he wrote all the answers correctly at first, and then erased them again and started writing wrong answers. The teacher tells him, I'm sure you did this intentionally. It seems the issue is in, and Hoshi was in the place and heard everything. Anyway, the next day we go to a running race at school, and of course, Hoshi excels over all his classmates in class. They are amazed by his speed, as is the second one, to arrive in record time, although he isn't the first, but he is still fast. He shocks all of them except his friend Hoshi. What is the story exactly? Anyway, after that, we learn that they have an exam in their class. Az finishes first, and as usual, he will erase his answers. But this time, the teacher catches him and takes the paper from him. The only one who fails the exam is Az. Yes, by God, just Az. I'm telling, everyone, of course, is amazed by his intelligence, and we notice that the knot of his magical tool has started to come undone as well. On the other hand, we find Atan and Kur at Yumi's shop, and he tells her about Az and the disease he has. Here, Yumi then tells them that this particular disease only affects the talented who hide their skills. Atan then deduces that there is someone in Az's life who is making him do this. And indeed, we go to a flashback and learn that Az and Hoshi have been friends for a long time, and how much Az excels in everything. Literally, the boy has skills beyond imagination, and everyone is impressed with him, to the extent that the girl that Hoshi loves is impressed with Az instead of. Hoshi then sees this with his own eyes and was very upset. After a while, we see as walking in the school, and hop, he notices Hoshi sitting alone, breaking down crying. This is because no one is interested in him at all. All eyes are on Az, nothing more. And we learn that they transfer to another school nearby. At that moment, Az chooses to make his friend happy at the expense of anything and decided to hide his skills forever and no longer show them. Again, never mind. We then return to Az and find him walking alone in the street. Suddenly, Hoshi calls out to him and they sit together like that. Hoshi takes the glasses from him and tells him, I knew they were fake, just like you are complete. And he tells him, I also know that you are doing all this because of me. Yes, he tells him, the day I was competing with, I thought you were my friend. My only hope was to beat you, but through my own effort, not by you hiding your abilities like this. Az lies to him and is still continuing in his act. But suddenly, Hoshi breaks down and tells him, enough lying. Anyway, you and I will enter a challenge tomorrow. And if I feel that you hid your abilities in the challenge, I won't talk to you again. Forget after that you know anyone named Hoshi. And he leaves him after that and walks away. But he said, Atan and Kur are watching and saw everything that happened. They take Az and go to one of the restaurants. Atan lets Az know that there is a big difference between helping the person in front of you and canceling yourself. The feeling of victory never diminishes the competitor in front of you. On the contrary, it will encourage him to win and feel the same feeling. And suddenly, Atan tells him, you must accept Hoshi's challenge. No, you must even win against him. Otherwise, he will feel that you are still lying, and then he will never know you again forever. And indeed, the words affect Az. The next day, he goes to school with all confidence. He goes without the glasses too. He greets Hoshi, gives him the last sweetness, and tells him, come on, get ready for the challenge. They go down to the school and are surprised to find Atan standing among them. But never mind about it. The challenge is a 100-meter race exact, and the one who reaches before the second one wins. And hop, the start signal is released. Yes, Az, Hoshi and Az race with all their speed. There is no more mercy or leniency for the opponent. They approach the finish line, but who will win? And hop, Hoshi is one step ahead of Az, which is enough to achieve victory over him. Yes, Hoshi finally wins over his friend, even though Az hasn't been training for a while. But he looks at his friend and tells him, good for you, but I will definitely beat you next time. After a while, Atan gives the magical tool to Az and tells him, try it now. And by activating it, the bag opens and a tool comes out of it containing a huge magical energy that can treat him. And finally, everything returns to normal and everything becomes fine. Anyway, after that, we find Atan sweeping in front of his clinic, and suddenly he notices a child standing in front of. By the way, his name is Rio. He goes to him and asks him what he is doing here. He tells him that he has been coming here for a while and wishing for a wish. Which is that his mother gets treated from the illness she has. Atan then lets him know that he is a doctor and will help him. He takes him and they enter inside the clinic. He gets a phone call then, and barely does he answer it when the clinic door opens. He said this is a second case that came to them, and she asks for a doctor named Atan. The surprise is that she turns out to be Ryo's mother in the first place. Yes, by God, just as you heard. They sit together and they learn that her son was afflicted with a strange disease, almost like a curse, literally. Kur makes tea for them, and we find the mother giving tea to her son. By the way, his name is Fan. Here, Korba is surprised. As for Atan, he looks like he noticed something. He asks her to tell him the details completely, and when this disease came to her exact, so she tells him, for about a year, I can't hear the voices of some people when I come to talk to them. This even includes Ryo. I don't hear a single letter from him. And suddenly, tea was about to fall on Fan if it weren't for Atan catching it at the last moment, literally. And here, Kur then wanted to say something, but Atan stops him and tells the mother, fine, anyway, you don't have a hearing problem. No, but the disease you have allows you to hear two types of speech. As for the rest, like Ryo's speech, for example, the speech doesn't reach you at all. Never mind. He tells her that he will make a magical tool for her within a few days that will treat her and she can come by to get it. Fine. And barely does the mother leave when we find Ryo pulling her hand again and telling him, I kiss your hand. Help her? Don't leave her. He cries bitterly and tells him, I'll do anything. Just let my mother be treated. Of course, he tells him, fine, and asks Kerr to bring a magical tool that is like two similar shells. He tells him then, one for you and the second for your mother, and I want you to talk with her through this shell. With time, she will start to hear you and will be treated, but the price will be your voice. Yes, your voice will be gone forever. After that, we find Kerr and Atan standing together, and when Kerr asks him what is happening, he tells him, you surely noticed. Ha, we are shocked. Literally, there was no one with them when they were sitting. Yes, meaning Fan is a ghost. Or what's the story? Korba remembers finally and tells him that this name is associated with a case from a while ago. They research the topic and confirm this talk. We go to a flashback then and learn that Rio and Fan are brothers in the first place. On one day, Rio gets angry with his mother and leaves her and walks away. But suddenly, a cup of tea falls on Fan. The mother is treating his hand, which was badly burned. As for Rio, he becomes very sad and sits alone. Fan then, when he sees his condition, decides to go out and buy things for him from the shop to make him happy. While he is on his way back, we are surprised by a car stopping in front of him. A very terrifying person gets out of it and takes Fan with him. And approximate like that, Fan was kidnapped. The police turn the world upside down looking for him, but in vain, there is no trace of him at all. After a week passes from the incident, the mother is surprised by a box in front of the house. When she opens it first, terror overcomes her. Screaming fills the place. Rio and his father go to her, and the shock that is in this box is Fan's severed arm, thrown in front of them with all brutality. No one believes what happened. The news fills the city, and since then, the mother is afflicted with this disease and always hallucinates that Fan is with her. Anyway, we return again to Rio, and are surprised that he is still searching every inch of the city for his missing brother. And hop, a man appears behind, and approximately like that, Rio knows him. He asks Rio to talk with, but he ignores him and walks away. Suddenly, the man tells him, if you want to know who killed your brother, stop and listen to me. Rio then gets angry and tells him, my brother is alive and I will find him soon. He leaves him and runs away. When he goes home, he is surprised that the disease has started to control his mother in a terrifying way. Immediately, he goes to Atan's clinic and takes him by the hand and asks him to go with him to the house. Atan agrees, of course. As for Kerr, he has an errand and leaves them and walks away. Never mind about it. Anyway, Atan and Rio are walking along, and suddenly, Rio notices something moving. He thinks it's his brother. He enters the forest to search for him, and Atan tries to stop him, but unfortunately, he runs at full speed. Atan then says it can't be helped and goes after him. He is the second one. But suddenly, Rio reaches the edge of a cliff and falls from it. Atan tries to save him, but they both fall together. Atan then protects him with all bravery and decides to sacrifice himself. Rio is indeed fine, but Atan no longer moves. It seems like this is his end. The boy then cries bitterly and says, Atan died and I am the cause. But hop, Atan tells him, don't jinx me. Yes, Atan is still alive. Rio is very happy and then apologizes to him for what happened because of him. And approximate, Atan, the fall has affected him. He can't move at all. How will they get out of this place? They are sitting then on top of despair. Atan can't move, nor can Rio return home and call for help. Suddenly, an idea comes to his mind. Yes, he will use the tool he has, hoping someone will hear him, but he is afraid and keeps crying from what happened to them. Atan then reassures him and promises him that everything will be fine. After that, he loses consciousness and falls to the ground. We notice that his leg is literally destroyed. Rio controls his nerves and speaks into the magical tool he has, hoping his mother will hear him. And on the other end, we are surprised that his mother and father are searching for him everywhere. And Kerr is the second one returning home, finds it locked. He enters inside and searches for Atan, but no, he has no trace. He pulls himself together and heads to Rio's house and asks about Atan. He is shocked when he learns that Rio and Atan disappeared from the last time he left them. He tells them that Atan and Rio were on their way home here, and surely something happened. He thinks like that about a way he can reach them. And hop, it occurs to him, the magical tool. He asks the mother if Rio gave her a shell like that, but she is surprised. He tells her, where are Rio's belongings? The father points them out to him, and indeed, he finds the magical tool, but he notices the presence of a crystal on it. Yes, Kerr knows that Rio is using it, and therefore his voice might disappear at any moment. Rio's father says that. The mother can't hear Rio's voice at all, and therefore, he will try to make him hear. Korba shocks them and tells them that the one who uses the tool must be of two different genders. In short, a man and a woman, otherwise they won't be able to communicate with each other, and there is no solution left except for the mother to hear her son's voice. She tries to hear him, but suddenly the crystal grows larger, and this means Rio is speaking with great anxiety. She tries again, and the curse controls her. She starts hallucinating and remembering the past. The crystal grows larger again, and the mother cries a new bitterness. She cries because she can't hear him. Rio is also on the verge of losing his voice and being lost forever. The father encourages her and tells her to try again. He tells her, we lost one, and we must protect the second. And indeed, the mother this time tries with all bravery and manages to overcome the bitter memories she lives in. Once she is convinced that Fan is not present, she gets treated and returns to her normal self again. She hears Ryo's voice and talks with him and learns from him that he and Atan fell in the forest. Here, Kerr then pulls himself together and goes searching for them. We find him with adhesive tape and a rope. He follows their track packs and leaves. Marks for himself so he doesn't get lost on the way back. And indeed, he manages to reach them and finds Aton unconscious. Ryo is sitting next to him. He uses the rope and in seconds goes down to them. He tries to wake Aton up, and indeed, he manages to open his eyes. He tells him that he is fine. Here, Kerr uses the first aid he has and helps them to get out. He goes to Aton and gives him his clothes because his clothes were ruined from the rain. Barely does he help him change. The clothes went hot. He is shocked. By God, he appeared with the Eye of Insight and the bird too. Kerr tells him, very well. Anyway, if you had taken a hit in your condition, you could have died. And if it weren't for your condition, by God, I wouldn't have listened to you. But everything has its time. After that, he lets Ryo know that his mother is completely fine and was treated forever and returned like before, even better. At that moment, Ryo cries from happiness and hugs Aton. After a while, help arrives where they are. They transfer them to the hospital immediately to treat our hero. Kerr then visits Aton in the hospital and is very upset with him and tells him, since you had the Eye of Insight in the bird, it was easy for you to reach me. Of course, why didn't you do that? Aton then tells him, if something had happened to Ryo, I would have surely used, but honestly, I took advantage of what happened so I could treat the mother, and this was the most suitable opportunity, really. But he apologizes to Kerr because he surely caused him problems and made him worry about him. Suddenly, he pulls himself together and goes to Ryo and checks on him. The shock is that he actually lost his speech. But do you think Aton will stay silent? No. By God, he takes out the magical tool and takes the crystal from it and tells Ryo, once you eat this, your voice will return again. And indeed, it happens, and the boy can speak and thanks him for everything he did for him. Everything is the ultimate sweetness. Anyway, after that, Aton and Kerr are leaving the hospital. Suddenly, a strange boy is in their face, and we learn that his name is Ona. He is Kerr's friend from school. He greets him like that, and hop, we find popcorn coming out of his head. He said, what is happening? And barely does Kerr grab the popcorn, he finds it has completely disappeared. Aton and Kerr are stunned and frozen in place, literally, and don't understand anything. As usual, they take him to the clinic and start talking. We find Ona making a game like that while he is sitting talking, but suddenly he destroys it. We learn that he is a talented person and an inventor of the coolest things. The school always honors him and holds parties for him too. On one day, he is going to school like every normal day, and suddenly his father lets him know that his mother went to the hospital because of yes, and this is because he doesn't study nor sees what's behind him, and all his focus is on the things he keeps inventing. He takes from him a promise that he will change and stop inventing these things completely, otherwise his mother will never get better. Never mind. At that moment, Aton gives him a tool like that, which is a magical bag, and tells him, I want any popcorn that comes out of your head to be put in this bag until we find a solution. And as soon as Ona leaves, Aton talks with Kerr. He tells him, since he is with you in school, I want you to watch him for the next 2 days. Fine. And indeed, we find ourselves in school, and the students are gathered around him and ask him to invent something for them, but the boy freezes in place and refuses. We find the popcorn has started to come out of his head, and here Kerr helps him and collects this popcorn and puts it in the magical bag he has. We learn that this popcorn is a result of the psychological pressure happening inside Ona. In the evening, Kerr notices Ona sitting alone like that in the garden and goes to him and asks him what exactly he is doing. Suddenly, Ona tells him, I will build a house here to live in for the rest of my life, and this is because he can't enter the house and his mother isn't in it. At that moment, Kerr tries to help him and they build another super cool house. After that, we find Aton has arrived where they are and yells at, what are you doing? Why at a time like this? He drags Ona by his hand to take it away. Here, Kerr calls out to him and asks him to let Ona stay with them today. And indeed, Aton gives in to them in the end. He pampers them too. When he goes to the clinic, he calls Ona's father and asks him to allow his son to stay with them tonight. And indeed, he agrees. He brings then a box full of many, many tools and tells Ona, come on, I want you to consider today a holiday and make whatever you want. And yes, he can't believe it and makes toys, shapes, and colors, things that are super cool. After that, they sleep over together and everything is fine. But suddenly we find Ona's father, whose name is Shin, by the way, opening the door on them. He enters with all force and checks on his son, but he is shocked when he finds many toys around him. He approaches his son and tells him, you broke the promise between us, and for a long time your mother has been suffering because of. He says words like trash, literally, making him feel guilty to the extreme. Aton tells him, this is part of the treat. I am responsible here. Shin tells him, and I am his father, looking out for his interest. He takes him and leaves. And hop, Aton asks Shin about the mother's illness. Shin then freezes in place and suddenly yells at him. He tells him, it's none of your business with me or my family again. Otherwise, you've chosen. When he leaves, Kerr asks Aton what he is thinking about. And here, Aton tells him, the first time I met Ona was in the orthopedics department. There is surely something wrong. On the other hand, Shin punishes Ona and locks him in the house and doesn't let him go to school or even see the street. The boy, my dear, his condition worsens a lot. And on the other hand, Kerr is sad for his friend and asks Aton if there is something he can do to help Ona through it. Aton tells him, of course, I want you to preserve the bag you are collecting the popcorn in that comes out of Ona. Fine. And an idea comes to his mind like that. He takes a ball and goes to visit Ona's mother in the hospital, but he hides first when he finds Shin present there. He says, says, "I'm sure there is something wrong and we must know it." And as is completely expected, the mother tells Shin, "It seems I've become incapacitated, or what at the end of time. I entered the hospital because of a backache." And Atan and Kur are shocked, and Shin discovers their presence. Atan then goes to him and says, "I want an explanation, otherwise I won't have mercy on you." The mother is shocked when she learns what happened and that her son thinks she is in the hospital because of him. At that moment, Shin breaks down crying, and yes, we learn that the school offered Ona to complete his studies abroad, and this is because of the talent he has. Therefore, Shin is afraid of being separated from his only son, not to mention that he wants when he grows up to take over his company and stand by him. Therefore, he exploited the mother's illness to keep Ona away from what he is doing. Here, the mother intervenes and tells Shin, "Our son has a talent, and we are supposed to stand by him and support him, not discourage him and make him feel guilty." And indeed, Shin is convinced by her words and decides to confess the truth to Ona. But unfortunately, it's too late and his condition has become difficult. He is walking in the street alone and crying. Finally, he discovers what the popcorn coming out of his head is. Yes, the feelings of joy and hope that he suppresses inside him come out in the form of this popcorn. And if they disappear, his mind might be completely destroyed. But he decides to give up on them and surrender to his fate. He ties a bunch of balloons to the bag he has and lets it fly in the air. Suddenly, he falls to the ground and loses consciousness completely. After a while, Atan gets a call from Shin letting him know that Ona has disappeared and there is no trace of him at all. And hop, Kur goes out, immediately searching for Ona everywhere. Literally, he manages to reach him and finds him thrown on the ground and can no longer move. He notices the disappearance of the bag. He puts the popcorn in. When he asks him about it, he tells him, "I let it fly in the sky." He remembers Atan's words when he told him to preserve the bag by any means. And suddenly, Ona loses consciousness. Shin and Atan arrive where they are too. Shin cries bitterly. As for Atan, he asks Kur to get the popcorn bag quickly. But unfortunately, it's no longer useful. Kur tells him what happened and is in utter despair and very sad. But do you think that Atan will stay silent? No. By God, he flies a balloon and determines the wind direction and uses the Eye of Insight and determines the location of the bag containing the popcorn. And indeed, after a while of time, travel, and hardship, he finally manages to reach the bag. He finds it hanging on one of the buildings that is still under construction. Immediately, Kur runs towards the building and starts climbing. Atan then was afraid for him and tries to stop him, but Kur insists on getting the bag no matter what happens. And hop, he stumbles and was about to fall from above, but no, he tries with all his strength and manages to get the bag in the end. On the other hand, Ona starts to wake up. He is surprised when he finds all the toys he made next to him. Atan and Kur then also arrive where he is. And the first thing when he sees the bag he flew in the air is with Kur. He is shocked and no longer understands what is happening. Here, he decides to confess the truth to him, that his mother didn't enter the hospital because of no. He apologizes to him for everything that happened to him. But we notice that Ona is no longer focused at all. He looks like he's become stupid, or what's the story? At that moment, Atan takes the popcorn quickly and puts a powder on and asks Ona to eat it now. With every piece he eats, his feelings return to him again, and he returns to his normal self finally. And since he is not the cause of his mother's illness, he goes to visit her, but in his own way. Yes, he turns her room into a paradise, literally. The mother is very happy with him and takes pride in him too. Finally, everything became fine. After a period of time, we find Atan with a strange message and walking with Kur in the street. He lets him know that a maker of magical tools named Rin died recently and left a message about the existence of his private treasure in one of the places, and they are now going to search for it. Barely do they arrive there when they find two people fleeing from the place. Their condition is terrible, literally. They enter inside and find the place lit with candles. Hop, Yumi, and Kian are there, but who is the third with them? Atan then barely notices him and escapes quick, but on whom, oh sad one? We learn that Johan is with them, Atan's personal teacher, who was literally watching him. Atan is terrified of him. Never mind. We learn that they met by chance and decide to form one team and search for the treasure together. Suddenly, we find tools appearing in the place that prevent them from taking their phones and the pet birds with them. And focus with me here, my friend, on Johan and see what he puts on his shoulder. Never mind. A door appears in front of them, and as soon as they enter, they are shocked by the splendor of the place. Is this a museum, or what's the story? Paintings and tools are everywhere. Literally. A second door appears in front of them. A voice greets them, and they must find 7 keys before the time runs out. Barely do they enter the door when they find statues filling the place. And hop! The statues are transformed into the likeness of Yumi and Atan, and the requirement is that they find the real Atan and Yumi amidst the chaos in front of. How sweet. Since Kian is in the place, it is easy for him to find Yumi. He uses his skill and multiplies his hearing sense, and manages to find her through heartbeats. Good for you, by God. As for Johan, he looks like that at all the copies of Atan, and suddenly grabs the real Atan from his face. Kur then asks him how he managed to find him, so he tells him that this was the stupidest looking one among them, nothing more. Yes, by God, just as you heard. Anyway, we find the first key appearing out of nowhere, and they obtain it and enter the door after it. But this time, the topic is different. Yes, doors are everywhere. Johan then tells them, "Come follow me and don't waste time." But suddenly, Suddenly, Johan and Kerr are separated from the rest of the team. Kerr is shocked, literally. As for Johan, he says, "We must continue." And indeed, he reaches like that a room full of amazing weapons. Armored knights are standing in front of it, and the requirement for them is to hit the soldiers directly in the heart immediately. Kerr takes the sword and attacks one of the knights with all skill, and we learn that he is a professional fighter. Johan then says to him, "Good for you," and everything. But what do you think like this? Yes, the second knight imitates Johan's movements exactly. We learn that the guards are a reflection of every move they make. Here, Korba throws the sword he has and uses his intelligence. He makes a move like that the knight in front of him can't imitate, and he falls to the ground. Suddenly, Korba takes the sword and thrusts it into his heart and finishes the talk. He looks at Johan and says, "Come on, your turn." Johan tells him, "Simple," and hop. In the blink of an eye, he finishes off the knight complete, and this with a speed beyond imagination. Literally, Korba is shocked by him, and here the key appears out of nowhere. Anyway, they can continue walking in the place and manage to meet the rest of the team again. But this time, Atan and Johan are together, and the requirement is to solve one of the puzzles. A huge number of boxes are distributed everywhere. "Bring me then, O master, the box that contains an apple." How sweet. But suddenly, Johan points to one of the boxes and tells Atan, "Go open." And indeed, Atan climbs to the top, and here Johan tells him, "Come down now." That's enough. We learn that he found the apple and knew its location from the start, but he was just bothering Atan, nothing more. On the other hand, we find Kerr, Kian, and Yumi standing together, and with them are exactly 4 keys. And hop, a gun is put to Kerr's head. Yes, intruders in the place are trying to take the keys from them, but on whom? This is Kerr, the man of the toughest. He attacks him and hits him, bringing him down to the ground. But there is another one threatening to kill Yumi if he doesn't surrender himself. And indeed, Kerr surrenders. The gang takes the keys from them, and they are tied with a rope too. The boy who was hit grabs Kerr, grinds him, and literally breaks his bone. In the meantime, Atan and Johan arrive where they are and see what is happening. Atan loses his temper and wants to catch up with them quickly, but Johan stops him. He tells him the gang has weapons, and 1 bullet is not enough. He insists on going to save them, and suddenly Johan grabs his face, literally. He tells him, "Do you have a hunch about them?" So he tells him, "No." Then listen to the talk letter by letter. Fine. And we are surprised that Johan goes to the gang and tells them what is happening. They tie him up too and take the key from him. But on whom? Oh, sad one. By God, Johan attacks his friend. He tries to intervene, but he gets hit too. And yes, Atan was using a tool of invisibility and puts it on him. The shock is that the gun turns out to be a toy in the end. And Johan knew this, but was just playing a bit. At that moment, we learn what Johan was putting on his shoulder, the penny coin. He had calculated everything. Literally, never mind. We learn that they finally managed to collect the 7 keys, and suddenly a magical energy comes out of them. The treasure door opens in front of. Barely does Atan enter the door when it closes on him alone. It was like a library in front of. Oh man. Choose one and tell me, what is the last tool Rin used? Atan then thinks a bit like that and notices an incomplete design of a magical tool on the desk and says, surely Rin was designing another tool before he died. And yes, Atan grabs the magical pen of his, and indeed it turns out that this is the last tool Rin used before he passed away, and he solves the final puzzle. We find a book appearing in front of him. As soon as he holds it, he is transported outside the place. In it, we see the rest of the team present outside, and they are surprised when they learn that this book is the treasure they were searching for. As for Johan, he takes the book from Atan and gives it as a gift to Yumi. And of course, Atan can't open his mouth with a word. He cries like children. Never mind. The next day, we find Kerr in school saying there is surely something wrong, and he is suspicious of something. He returns to the maze again. And hop, this Johan is also present. What is the story? They enter again, and Johan is impressed with Kerr's intelligence, especially when he tells him, since we solved the puzzle, why didn't the maze disappear as written in the message? They wander a bit like that, and suddenly Johan stops in front of a large panel like that, but it is a void. He hits Kerr and knocks him unconscious and tells him, sorry, you can't see what will happen, and anyway, you will forget everything when you wake up. He moves the panel, and indeed, he manages to take the real treasure and takes out the book of mysteries that contains the secrets of the universe in its condition. At that moment, the maze starts to disappear as written in the message. Finally, but why did Johan do this to Kerr? We go back to a flashback and learn Kerr's story from the beginning. From the time of his child, he was someone different and completely mysterious. Yes, he sees things that no one else sees. The mysterious energies present in the world appear in front of him normally. On one day, he is on a trip with his family and asks them about the things he is seeing. They think he is crazy or has fallen on his head. When his mother takes him to a doctor, the boy is afraid to speak and they say that he was lying, nothing more. He decides to hide his secret forever. Finally, Kerr grows up and is still hiding his secret, and this is because he is afraid they will think he is crazy. Never mind. We learn that he belongs to a family that are all ninjas, literally. His father is their trainer, and we also learn that he has 4 siblings, 2 boys, Yogi and Atashi, and 2 girls, Masa and Lona. Anyway, he finishes his training with them, and after that, he leaves them and goes to sit alone in his room. He feels something strange happen. He puts his hand on his stomach, and suddenly black sand comes out. Literally, the disease he has is developing, and his condition becomes very difficult. He is in utter despair and doesn't know how to act. On one day, day, he is coming from his school, and suddenly, we find a mysterious person appearing in front of him. He lies to him and says, I know you are suffering. Tell me, come on, and I will help. And indeed, Kerr believes him and tells him everything. And here, this man takes out a strange staff from with him and points it towards Kerr. He tells him, you are completely fine now. How sweet. Kerr lets him walk away and knows that he is a fraud because he still sees the mysterious energies everywhere in front of him. But suddenly he feels something strange towards this place. By God, what is the story exact? He decides to enter inside and is literally surprised because with every step he takes, the mysterious energy starts to fade away. He freezes in place and can't believe himself. From happiness, my dear, he sits on the ground and even goes to sleep. In the meantime, Atan notices him. He doesn't know who this is. When he approaches him, he looks like that and notices something. He tries to check on him and hop, he gets a punch in his face. By God, the boy turns out to hit while he is sleeping. What about if he wakes up? Anyway, after a while, Kerr finally wakes up and is surprised by food present in front of him. He is surprised at first, but he is hungry and finishes all the food. He says, I am very late, and pulls himself together and leaves. When Atan then comes out, he doesn't find him in the place. Imagine then that. He will stay silent? No, by God. The next day, we find Kerr leaving school and is surprised by someone asking about him. Yes, Atan. When he sees him, he runs towards him. Kerr then says to him, man, who are you? What do you want? When Atan tells him, I am a doctor and I want to help you, Kerr is shocked. He tells him, you are just a crazy person with what you are wearing. He leaves him and walks away. Atan then tries to stop him and hop. Kerr literally breaks him. He brings him down to the ground. No, he even hands him over to the police. We are surprised when we find Kerr pulling himself together and going back to this man again. By the way, his name is Azar. We learn that he has opened therapeutic academy like that, and Kerr tells him that he was treated yesterday thanks to him. He decides to join them too, but as soon as he goes, his condition worsens a lot. We notice like that Atan is watching. Kerr then goes to Azar again and tells him that he is still suffering, but suddenly he finds a large gathering at the academy's door. By God, Atan is coming. He is the second one to the same place. But what is he planning? Korba then tells them to make this man leave here, but Azar refuses. He welcomes him too, so he tells him, Kerr, watch me like this because you will be shocked by what will happen. We learn that Azar is holding a welcome party for the new members and keeps praising Atan. Atan then goes to him and tells him, you are lying, come on, and deceiving people. If you can really see everything, can you tell me what this is exactly? And he points to parts of the mysterious energy. Kerr then is shocked that there is someone else who sees it besides him. As for Azar, he doesn't see anything. No. Here, Atan then goes to Kerr and gives him a paper with his number and says, I will wait for your call. But Azar kicks Atan out of the place. He takes the paper from Kerr, crumples it, and throws it on the ground. And not only that, no, he brings his assistants, and they beat Kerr and imprison him in an underground jail too. On the other hand, we find Atan wondering that Kerr hasn't contacted him until now. When he uses the Eye of Insight, he is shocked. Yes, he finds out from the bird that he is imprisoned in the academy. Immediately, he runs to his tools. He takes the magical handkerchief and his home and heads towards Kerr at full speed. As soon as he arrives there, he disguises himself with the handkerchief he has. We learn that he transforms into the likeness of Azar exact. He enters to Azar's assistants and asks them for the key to the jail where Kerr is imprisoned, and indeed, he obtains it very easily. But we learn that the handkerchief has side effects. His face was completely burned. Anyway, he goes to Kerr and tells him, come on, let's escape now. But the surprise is that Kerr refuses and tells him, leave me and go away from here. I no longer care if I get treated or even die. He yells at Atan, and his condition becomes very difficult. Seems like this is his end. But no, Atan grabs him by the neck and tells him, you are coming with me like this, whether you like it or not. He asks him to look at his stomach and hop. The disease has started to control his body completely. Atan promises him that he will treat him, but first, he must trust him and come with him. And indeed, Atan takes Kerr and leaves the place quick. As soon as he arrives at the clinic, Kerr finds that the mysterious energy has started to fade. He knows that he is in the right place. Here, Atan then takes care of him and offers him food to eat everything. Kerr lets him know that if he eats rice, he will vomit sand, but Atan reassures him, and indeed he eats and nothing happens to him. At that moment, Atan tells him, as for the sand, it's easy to treat, but as for the mysterious energy you see, I love to tell you that it is not a disease at all for us to treat it, and that you can also see it normally. In short, we learn that the mysterious energy he sees can afflict people with strange diseases at any time, and the fact that he sees it means that he has a therapeutic talent, and it will develop with him as he grows up. Yes, by God, just as you heard. And he lets him know that the sand that comes out of him is the suppression inside him, and this is because he doesn't tell anyone what he sees, and fear always controls him, and if anyone knew what was happening with him, they would surely think he is crazy. Atan tells him then that in order to be treated, he must face the fear and suppression inside. In short, he is afraid his family will think he is crazy if he tells them what he saw. The solution then, for it to lessen, is for him to tell them everything in detail without any fear or hesitation at all. Fine. Indeed then, Atan and Kerr go to the house at his place. As soon as his siblings see him, they think Atan is a thief, and Kerr means to arrest him. Yes, by God, just as I'm telling you, but he lets them know that this is his doctor. They sit together, and Kerr starts to tell them what happened with. He is very nervous, but the surprise is that no one believes him. They think that Atan is taking advantage of him and making him say this. Korba, when he feels the danger to Atan, apologizes to his family and tells them that this was a prank, nothing more. Atan then, when he hears him, is shocked and grabs Kerr like that and yells at him. Atashi intervenes quickly and subdues Atan, but when Kerr sees the marks on Atan and that he did everything to help him, suddenly Kerr transforms and attacks Atashi and frees Atan from him. He tells them, I don't care about my condition now as much as I care about you believing me and standing by me because you are my family. And Atan takes his leg to his stomach and it would have been the end of him. Kerr then runs to check on him and tells Atashi, why did you do that? Here, Atan tells him something strange. He asks him to subdue Atashi for a second, nothing more. Kerr tells him, fine. He attacks his brother with all stupidity. But on whom is this? Atashi, the son of the tough ones, trips Kerr and puts his foot on him and brings him to the ground too. And here, Kerr then distracts Atashi's attention for a sec. The fight turns in his favor and he subdues him. In the blink of an eye, Atan puts a magical tool in front of his eye that makes him able to see the mysterious energy with all clarity. Atashi then freezes in place and can't believe it. And after that, oh happiness, oh joy, everyone is reconciled. Literally. Finally, they are convinced by Kerr's words and apologize to him greatly. And this is because they were supposed to believe him from the beginning and stand by him too. At that moment, Kerr goes outside and is happy that his family finally understood him. But suddenly, he finds himself being subdued. Yes, Azar has reached him and wants to kidnap him too. But on whom? Oh, sad one. The whole family is present. They attack him and crush him from the beginning again. And something of the ultimate greatness. Honestly. As for Kerr, he goes to Tan's clinic and asks him to accept him as his assistant and teach him everything about mystery and strange diseases. Here, Atan then becomes very happy and jumps up and down in the end, can't believe himself. He says, finally, I have my own student. Everything is the ultimate sweetness. We return again to the present and find Atan examining Kerr and checking on his condition. He tells him that his condition has become stable complete. By the way, he treats him to the food he loves most. And I want to tell you that he devoured the food of his in seconds, my friend. No, he even wants to take Atan's food. After a little while, Kerr is on his way home, and suddenly he talks with Atan and tells him, since my treatment period is over, can I come to you again or not? Atan tells him, are you stupid? Come on. Did you forget that you are my assistant before you became my patient or what? How can you not come? But suddenly he changes all his talk and tells him, yes, you are finally cured and your presence here might expose you to harm again. Here, Kerr then is shocked and tells him, fine, and leaves him and walks away. After a little while, we find Atan sitting at Yumi's and crying. His condition is miserable by 6 miseries. Anyway, he tells her that Kerr left him. When she asks him what happened, he tells her the story. Yumi tells him, what made you tell him that? Here, we learn the story from the beginning, that Johan told him to stop his work as a healer. And this is because he exposes himself to danger every time, and his life is a cheap price compared to completing the treatment of the patients he has. He even told him, your student's life was exposed to danger too, and he could have died at any moment. And this is because he imitates you, nothing more. Anyway, you are unqualified to be a healer. Therefore, Atan listens to the talk and is affected, and this is what made him talk to Kerr in that way. Here, Yumi tells him that Johan is right, of course, and you have a choice of two. Either close the clinic or change your method completely. On the other hand, Kerr is walking alone and thinking about Atan's words and why he told him that. Suddenly, he notices Johan standing far away and runs towards him and talks with him. He tells him his story about what happened and that Atan changed a lot suddenly. Kerr then lets him know that Johan was the cause of everything. Despite that, Kerr was completely convinced by his words. When he goes to school, he keeps thinking of a way to help with it. He remembers the first time he met him, and yes, an idea of the ultimate sweetness comes to his mind. He goes to Yumi, and they look like they are planning something. After a little while, we find Yumi has summoned Johan to her. She tells him that she wants to show him something important, and indeed, she takes him and goes with him to the garden. The surprise is that Atan and Kerr are also in the garden. Kerr tells him, I am treating you to lunch, and I brought you the food you love, but that's not the important thing. No, he tells him, look there, and suddenly Atan notices all the patients he treated in the past period, and those who couldn't come, he sent a message with Kerr. Here, Kerr then tells him, imagine, like this, your life was exposed to danger and you treated your first patient. Surely all these would have been taken over by the disease, until now, and surely also, no one would have treated them. If you are really afraid for your patients and want to help more people, then you must preserve your life because they also need you. Here, Atan then understands the message and thanks him for everything. He promises that he will not risk his life. Again, he goes and sits with all his patients. They celebrate together, and everything is the ultimate sweetness. And on the other hand, Yumi and Johan are watching what is happening. Suddenly, Johan walks away and leaves them, but he tells Yumi to give Atan a message, which is that he decided to give him a second chance to complete his therapeutic journey, but on the condition that Kerr stays with him. Here, Yumi then was very happy, and they go celebrate with Atan, and everything is the ultimate coolness. And up to here, our story ends. If you liked it, don't forget to tell me your opinion and like the video, and subscribe to the channel, and bye.